Hey, welcome everybody to our Get Inspired and Live in Your Power podcast. I'm super excited to have Lyndsey Van Sickle as our guest today. Welcome, Lyndsey.
Thank you. Hey, Waylene.
Yeah, super excited to have Lyndsey. I had the pleasure of listening to Lyndsey speak, I don't know, a week or so ago, and was totally enthralled with her path and how she has come to where she is now. I'm going to give you a little bit of background on her, and then we'll jump in and talk a little bit more about what you're doing, Lyndsey. And she actually goes by Lyndsey V professionally, like in her website and all that kind of stuff. So Lyndsey V as in Van Sickle. So you'll be able to find her wherever you are looking for her. And Lyndsey is a compelling burnout speaker. So she talks to people about burnout. She knows what it is like to live under immense pressure and sees how the stresses of our day block productivity and passion. And I have been there, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Lyndsey's keynote speeches are hands-on and focus on life's unsaids, which is the real cause of burnout. And she helps professionals get back into their original passion. Lyndsey's the author of the Black Book, which is, I think we're going to talk a little bit about that, where she teaches you how to shred. And she's a member of the National Speakers Association. She's a passionate mom and mama of four, and she has a love of speaking and outdoor activities with her family. And she has a dog named Cubby, who I loved what you said. Is it a he or she, Cubby?
He
He is more like a rug than a dog.
is. I highly suggest getting a rug dog.
Awesome. What kind of a dog is he?
He's a Irish Doodle.
Oh, fun. That's cool.
So sweet.
He sounds beautiful too, because I love those Irish setter, right?
Yeah. With the
Cool.
standard. So maybe he'll walk in and I'll put the camera on him.
Show him. Awesome. I want to find out a little bit more about your Black Book, because you alluded to that in the speech that I heard you speaking on. You weren't actually speaking on the Black Book and shredding and stuff. So I want to hear a little bit more about that. So let's just start with that. Just tell me a little bit more about that Black Book and kind of how that came about.
Well, it really came about because I don't know if anyone's ever been there, but I got to my late 20s, almost 30, without really letting myself feel a lot of the trauma, the normal things that build up of life, some significant, some insignificant. All the feelings, the emotions I'd experienced. To be honest, I'd spent all of these years pushing all of that away. I was kind of raised with this belief, and I just picked up on this idea that if you're not happy, if you're not living this exciting life or what you thought life would be, then like something must be totally wrong, right? So I couldn't face that. I just thought I better keep acting like things are okay. Wake up and put on that mask every day. Just keep acting like you're happy as a mom and if that things are fine. And eventually I thought if I just keep acting like they are, then one day they will be. But what I didn't realize is nothing was being looked at. It was all being pushed away.
I want to just interrupt you for just a second, Lyndsey, because I just want to confirm everything that you're saying, that you are not alone. And I think that this is the problem, right? Is we feel like we should be happy. I mean, I've got all the check boxes, like I should be happy. Why am I not happy? I must be the only one that's not happy. And so we're afraid to even let anybody know. And that hiding that you're talking about, I have totally experienced that. I know lots of my clients. I mean, that's why I have clients is because there are people who are finally willing to admit that, hey, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe I really am not supposed to be happy with the current situations I am. And, maybe I do need to look at some of these past traumas or whatever. So yeah, I just want to confirm you are not the only one. And yeah, we're not the only one.
We're in it together. That's what I'm starting to realize as I'm talking. I'm like, wait a minute, this hiding, feeling like we're the only one. Totally. We all have that in common. Sometimes I even think of it as the judgment, right? The judgment around our experiences or our beliefs behind those. That's what really keeps us in pain or keeps stress feeling so stressful. It's been mind-blowing to me to realize maybe it's not really even the experience that's going on or the struggle. Maybe that's not even the problem, right? It's the beliefs around it. And I'll kind of tell my story, that how I created the Black Book, before I get too much more into that. But so I'm in my 30s, well, about 30, and I remember sitting on my bed, and I had 3 little kids at the time, and I'm just like feeling the weight of all this stuff that we're talking about. All of these, I call it the things we don't say. I'm feeling all of those unsaids, everything that had been pushed away. And with those 3 kids, I'd had extreme postpartum depression, where it was like I lost myself for at least a year. With each of them, there'd been some significant trauma as a teen, right? Some people go through these huge things, lose a sibling or the divorce of a parent. That's the weight and all the stuff I was feeling that day. And I had my big, nice journal like spread open on my lap, and I'm just getting ready to like, what do you think I was going to do? I was going to write the little boring, mundane details of life, right? To pass down to a generation sometime.
Because you don't want your future generations to be reading about how horrible you're feeling right now.
Oh yeah. So we don't look at it, right? If we ignore it, maybe it's not there. And that is the passion and the piece that I love to talk about. That day, I'm still not sure totally why, but I was in a desperate place at that point. I felt I'd had depression and anxiety for so long. It really honestly felt, I know we can all relate with this sometimes, like there was nothing to lose. There was nowhere to go. And I had tried, if there was any avenue I could have possibly found, other than looking at my own stuff, I would have found it. Like I was over and over, got up and kept trying, and I was wore out, and I knew it wasn't working. And that day I said, I don't know what I'm feeling right now. I don't know. It was mystery to me, this weight, this pressure, but I'm just going to rip a page out of this journal. I'm going to say whatever it is I want to say. Who knows what that even is, right? And before I even wrote though, I got up, I remember tiptoeing off of my bed and like peeking out of the door, locking the door, like making sure the kids weren't watching. It felt that like scandalous to be looking at my real feelings. It's funny, but it felt so scary just to start to kind of crack the door open, like you and I were talking about, and see like what could really be there. And I let it loose. Like I was like, this is unjust. I'm mad about this thing. This is disappointing me. I can feel it again. Like I thought life would be different. Why do I feel like I'm failing? That feeling of failure, isn't that a huge one for us, all people, and especially women? There was so much there. I was shocked that it was at the surface, ready to be said. I did 3 pages front and back.
Wow.
Yeah. I tore it into teeny little pieces, and I took it out to my outside garbage, and I tossed it all in there. And I remember just breathing deep and thinking, wow, that was weird. And to be honest, I was like, let's just go back on with life now and act like everything's fine. That's how I was. But I started to feel this heaviness come up again a few days later, and I reached for my nice journal, and there was a line in the sand that started to happen in my life. Instead of pushing away my own self, my feelings, who I was, the things that were going on, I started to give myself permission to really see what was there. And the feeling of relief, and the feeling, I just remember my mind being like, Lyndsey, thank you. Like, thank you for just saying what was already here. The things that I thought I would find, they weren't there. It was just a relief from loosening that pressure of all the unsaid, everything that had built up. I felt like I was holding these like bursting closets closed, or all these corks underwater. And once I was willing to just see it and face it head on, I could breathe. And the relief that came, that's my story and why I created the Black Book. It's after like 7 years of going to this shred writing that I call it. I put the process into this book.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And what I'm hearing is we all have these things under the surface, right? And they're right at the surface, like they're ready to bubble over. And that is why we're feeling so, depressed or anxious or sad or, whatever, is because these things that just want to get out and we are stopping them. We have this big stopper in them. And it's not the things that are the problem. It's the judgment of the things that are the problem. That's the reason why we're not allowing ourselves to unstopper them, right? And I think that this is so powerful what you did, where you took your very nice journal, because we could say, oh yeah, I could do that. I could go buy a 90-cent spiral notebook and I can rip a page out. It doesn't have the same feeling, does it? And especially in the beginning, it feels like I'm going to take a page out of this really nice journal. It's like cracking the door open. I'm going to put a crack in my really nice life, and I'm going to let something nasty out. And there's just something about having a really nice journal that you would have the audacity to rip a page out and write something and tear it up and throw it in the garbage and have this flaw in your journal. I mean, I don't know if you've ever noticed or thought of that as an analogy, but it's like allowing yourself to have a flaw in this perfect life, allowing yourself to have a flaw in this perfect journal. Have you ever?
I never kind of connected that. That's so beautiful.
Okay, well, you can use that. You can totally use that in your speeches.
I love that. It's a lot of the writing I did. I was writing a lot to get to a certain point, and I realized, oh, if I just asked myself like X, Y, and Z, if I just asked, like, for instance, why do I feel this stress when I think about charging someone for what I do? Like, just as an example, like if I just would have started with that, I could really loosen and really just cut through that stuff that's there. So once I found those are kind of the prompts I saved. And that's what I put in the black book, my story. And then
I love it.
Those ones that really get the unsaids that just out.
Cool. So it's not just a bunch of blank pages. It's actually got some prompts that will help to bring up some of those things that you might have judgments about.
Yeah. Yes, I'll show you. This one, it's pretty general, like anything, things that come up, things like this one says, I feel guilty about having this opinion. That's one that's gotten me a lot. One that I always go to when I'm not in the mood is just, I don't have anything to say about this, whatever the thing is. But if I did, what would it be?
Okay.
I tricked my own self, and then suddenly it's right there.
I love that. So you trick yourself into actually having an opinion, allowing yourself to have an opinion. I love what you said earlier about giving yourself permission, like to go there, to crack that door open. What would you say are some of, well, first of all, let's look at what are some of the outcomes that happen when you don't crack the door open. And I want to share a little bit of just like a little tiny sentence of my experience as you were talking. I remember doing this. I had the exact same experience where I had like this, on the outside, it looked like I had the great life. And it's like, why am I not happy? And I remember going down to my bedroom and I would put a pillow over my face and I would just scream because I didn't want anybody to hear me. I didn't want anybody to know, that I was going through that. And then I would go about my daily life. But one day I allowed myself to write, just like you were saying. And I remember I just wrote and wrote and wrote. At the very bottom, after I had gotten everything out, I wrote, I hate my life. And it just brings up emotion for me to even think that I would even write those words, because I think about what would be the outcome if I didn't face that, if really what that belief is, I hate my life. I've never considered suicide, but I can see where people would actually consider suicide if they have all this stuff inside of them and it's just like bubbling at the surface and they won't let it out. They won't give themselves permission to let it out. Just that statement, I hate my life, what do you see with like the people that you interact with and that because of your Black Book? What are you seeing if they don't crack the door open?
That, Wileen, that's really beautiful. I just feel like there's a little moment there when you shared that. Thank you. It's the feeling of hating your life isn't, and this would have shocked me to know 10 years ago. That's not the problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think all, like, if we were a big group in here and we're like, raise your hand if you've ever felt like you hate your life, we'd all be like, confession, right? But it's the shame that we can create. Like you said, if you wouldn't have looked at that and seen it, your mind, your heart still knows that you're feeling it, and that can create a lot of shame, a lot of discomfort, a lot of pain, knowing that you feel that. And when you voice it, it suddenly becomes just something that's there and a piece of you, nothing to hide, nothing that your mind and your heart know you're not fearing it anymore. So it really releases that shame, the shame around it, because if we all talked about the things that we really feel, we'd realize we're all in it together.
I think what you said, your mind and your heart are not fearing it anymore. I mean, that's what we're fearing, is that if we let it out, it's going to be this scary monster that's going to gobble us up or something. But by letting it out, it basically is telling the universe and us and, everybody that I don't fear it anymore. I'm going to let it out. Let's face it, let's see. So what inspired you to, once you went from having the audacity to rip that page out of your nice journal, and you said you did that for several years, what inspired you to then actually create that Black Book? And then I know you have been on a journey of letting your voice be heard instead of hiding. What inspired you to then take that to the world and to stages?
Well, I spent so much time hiding. We could have a whole other episode about that. And I just, knowing the pain it caused, and I had done a lot of other great things that had helped, meditation, therapy, coaching, and they all played a role, but the shred writing is where I felt heard by myself. And that's who I needed to be heard the most by. And I don't know if that's exactly why, but it's the one I kept going back to over and over and over. Over all the years, the shred writing was there, the acknowledgement, and every single time I would come full circle to this power place. And so I would tell my sisters, and I'm finding my kids are like burning paper. And I felt this excitement. I've never had anything else in my life where I've woken up at like 5 a.m. with just this, like, I need to do this and this fun. Have you felt, you felt that with the project? And when I was on a long drive to St. George, and I just thought the Black Book name came in my head, and I just kind of was so passionate about waking up early and creating it. And that was about 3 years ago.
That's awesome. And that is the essence of Get Inspired and Living Your Power, right? It's receiving that inspiration. I know that inspiration came from God, and this is a calling for you to share this with people, because it is such a powerful process. And to have it be called the Black Book, I mean, that is so perfect. No marketer could have ever created anything better. So to be inspired on your drive to St. George and then just taking it and running with it, that is that's the key of when you get inspired. Then the next step is living your power, because you're taking action, you're being obedient to that inspiration. And so you found your power by getting inspired and taking action. So that's why we have you as a guest on this podcast.
Doesn't it go so opposite, Wileen, of like what we think? Like we're sitting there thinking, okay, like I'm going to feel like I'm an author and then I'll write a book.
Right.
Or I kept waiting to feel like I belonged as a speaker. I'm like, okay, ready. I've done a lot of work. Here we go. I still don't feel it. And it's exactly what you just said. Like we start to feel like we belong when we decide to belong, or we feel like an author once we write a book.
That's right.
It's exactly what you said. It's that faith and that step first, and knowing that none of us are feeling really legit, whatever that means, but we're doing it scared. That I've always heard of faith. I always heard of trust. It has this whole new meaning when I realize our Savior wants us to believe that we are actually the people to do this well before we ever. So if you're feeling like you don't feel like you're the person, like that's how we all feel.
It's true. I just can capture these little quotes that you said. I'm doing it scared. I feel like that could be a plaque.
I don't remember saying that, but thank you. I love
you
that.
said it. Yes. And I'm actually going to read a quote that I I grabbed from another podcast that I was listening to that you were on. It was right before I saw you speak. And I'm going to read it back to you. This is the way I wrote it down. It's not exactly word for word, but it was amazing. All the reasons that are holding you back, once you let yourself go there, they will loosen their grip and you will take your power back. All those fears that keep you small, I promise you, it won't ever be a thing. You said that. Something like that.
You send me my own quote.
It was so powerful. And everything that you said on this episode today is confirmation of that all the reasons that are holding you back, once you let yourself go there, give yourself permission, they will loosen their grip and you will take your power back. Those fears that kept you small, they're not even a thing. So thank you for that. All right. I want to have your listeners be able to get in touch with you. And so can you just tell them the best ways to connect with you? And then I know we also have an offer that I'm going to tell everybody about. In fact, I'm going to let you tell about the offer too. So tell us how to connect with you. Tell our listeners how to connect with you.
I would love to connect with anyone. It's just we're all in it together. So my website is Lyndsey, and it's spelled a little different, LYNDSEYV, lyndseyv.com. And then Lyndsey V _ on Instagram and Facebook.
Awesome. And then, and we're going to have that in the description as well. So when you're listening to this podcast, you can just check the description. All her contact information is going to be there. And then tell everybody how to get that black book. And I think you have a coupon code for them.
I do. So on lyndseyv.com is the black book. You can get free shipping and 20% off with the code, just all caps, shred the lies.
I love it. Shred the lies. I love it. And we'll have that in the description as well. So Lyndsey, if you could give one piece of advice for someone who is seeking to get inspired and live in their power, what would it be?
Sometimes I feel like I sound like a broken record talking about these unsaids over and over and over. But I didn't fully understand it took me 10 years. And I feel like in a little short podcast or in a little short keynote, just the message that there is nothing that will fully hold us back at all if we're able to look at it. The pain, it doesn't ever win because we come back and we're stronger and we're better. But the peace there is giving yourself permission to see it. And you will find a power you didn't know was there.
The peace is in the permission. That's what you said. The peace and the power is in the permission. So we can this is so powerful because, we might think that we can't control our circumstances. Our circumstances are what has been created based on what we've believed so far or whatever. But we definitely can give ourselves permission to look at those unsaids. That is so powerful. So we all have that kind of power. All right. Thank you so much, Lyndsey. I appreciate you being here so much. This has been super powerful for me, just confirmation of everything that has helped me to get to where I am with giving myself permission to look at those unsaids. And just super grateful for the lives that you're changing and helping people to be able to live more empowered lives and giving themselves permission to, just be real is really what we're doing, because we're all the same. We all have things that we wish maybe weren't experiencing, and we can give ourselves permission to get out of hiding and to actually create something different. So thanks everybody for joining us today, and we will look forward to having you join us again for our next episode. And go out and get inspired and live in your power.